So yeah, today we're going to be taking a look at some of Kuropi's stuff here because there's been a debate the last couple of days. I guess that's what you would call it. And Kuropi's saying that NGS is Sega's super game, or at least one of Sega's super games. So for those of you who don't know, Sega has like this super game project thing that's been talking about for like a few years. I think it's actually been about what 3-4 years. I think it started back in like 2021 since they've announced it. And like here's like some details on it. Yeah, originally announced back in 2021, and we know that it won't be a single upcoming game, but several. And this is according to like Tech Radar here. There was like an interview done with Shuji Utsumi, who was the co-chief operating officer at Sega. So I think that's a pretty good, source, and it's been like said multiple times in other articles or other websites. But yeah, it's gonna be a single. It won't be a single upcoming game, but several. And it'll involve numerous AAA titles that cross over Sega's comprehensive range of technologies, and it'll go beyond the traditional framework of games. Oh, it's a super game. See, it's beyond. But they say it's gonna be like head and shoulders above normal games, and there's like stuff about it being like also a huge thing for like streamers who stream games. So it's gonna be more like streamer based, it seems. But they've been like saying like several things like throughout the years. It's been like kind of like back and forth, like, oh, is it a single game, several games, or it's not even games, it's like something else. We're gonna be taking a look at that and seeing what Kuropi says, because he's done another video before called NGS got a huge budget increase, and in this he says that NGS is getting this 30 billion yen budget increase that's coming up. That I don't know why he's saying it. That it's particularly this, because it's legacy IP slash super game is getting that. So I'm guessing he's assuming that NGS is that in its entirety, or at least part of it. I didn't watch this video in full. I just watched like little pieces of it. But I thought it was just gonna be like this one and done video. But I guess like he's sticking to his guns, where he made another video kind of combating against all of like the comments saying that he was wrong here, talking about like all the legacy IPs mean other things, super game is something else, it's not NGS. So we're gonna be taking a look at this and seeing like if there is actually evidence for NGS being a super game, because apparently he found some, which a 20-minute long video, so I'd hope there'd be something here. But I'm gonna take a look at it with like trying to be as neutral as possible. I'm definitely in the camp of like NGS is not a super game, but if he actually provides like decent evidence, then I'll change my mind. I'll take actually a good look at it. I have like the other like sources pulled up just in case to like look at it. We'll see what he says. We'll go through the video, but as you can see here, the like dislike ratio is not so hot on this video, but I'll be open-minded about it. We'll see, because I don't know. I just have a feeling that it's probably gonna be more just like not solid evidence based on this, but we'll see what he says.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be proving to you guys that NGS
Proving
is
it.
indeed a... Good morning, everyone.
I don't
Today
know why
I'm
it
going to be
reset.
proving to you guys that NGS is indeed a super game by
Here we
giving
go.
you a little bit more insider information. Well,
Insider.
it's not really inside information.
Not really.
You
Okay.
could just Google it.
Here,
But
let me change where I'm at, so I'm not covering him. So that should be better.
Wants to jump on the hate bandwagon and just shit on my video about the budget increase, and so we're going to be addressing that in today's video.
Yeah, a lot of people were
if you're new to the
saying
channel,
otherwise. Like legacy IP means like other stuff, super game means other things. Which I mean, based on what we've seen in the past, like the announcement for super game was at the same time or after NGS came out. So I'm kind of on the people's side that are saying it's not, but we'll see.
Upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe, as it really helps out the channel.
Because NGS has been out for since 2021, and that's the same time as the announcements. So 3 years and some change, 3.5 years.
Let's begin the video.
But they could always change their mind on like the super game thing, because it is multiple games. Like maybe they'll like Like, the only angle that I could see Kuropi saying this being a super game is that it's, like, added in afterwards. Like, it's kind of lumped in with the rest. And, like, they're getting, like, some of this budget or whatever.
As I said in the introduction, we will be addressing the video that I made. NGS got a huge budget increase. As you can see right here, it does have a 76.9% like ratio with 333 likes.
And this video's got more dislikes than likes. So it got even worse than the first one.
Dislikes. Now, a lot of people seem to just jump on the bandwagon because they saw the comment section and they saw the most thumbed up one, and they're like, oh, that's what the video is about, and they just kind of glossed over the rest. However, I'm going to be addressing the comment section. When we head over to the comment section over here, and we're going to sort it through top comments right here. So, you know, the first one over here doesn't mean anything. It's just like, oh, I read the comments before watching the video. So, fatal dose of copium. However, there were some constructive criticisms over here. For example, Prince Brightstar over here does say that, Carol, it says right on the page, the money isn't for NGS, it's for legacy IPs and the super game. Legacy IPs was announced last year: Shinobi, Golden Axe, Jet Set Radio, Crazy Taxi, and Streets of Rage. And NGS has never been defined as a super game. So this is where a lot of miscommunication comes in, or a lot of misunderstandings. Because when I was talking over that the financial statement sheet, yes, they did not define NGS at all. They didn't address NGS or PSO2 anywhere. And this is where a lot of people jump the gun and they're like, oh my god, Carol, you're smoking so much copium. It doesn't say that. You know, you're clearly just...
Yeah, from the article itself, for what Brightstar is saying, I have it pulled up here. So I looked up super game, like with the search function. So it shows up like 7 different times. So this is the spot where they're looking at in the budget. So Sega's doing budget increases for multiple things, but the thing that we're focusing on is this little section right here with legacy IP super game over 30 billion yen. And everything else is just kind of like stuff in general. But if we look down, where was it? Yeah, right here. So new medium-term plan, welcome to the next level. And here, like, details out, like, different bullet points. So the one that's important here is investments to strengthen development and product capabilities. It's a super game and legacy IPs, kind of, like, split up. And for what it talks about with legacy IPs is literally, like, right down here in this section, I believe. Or is it here? Oh, no, it's right here. So... as a further upside, we announced a project to breathe new life into the legacy IPs still loved by fans in December 2023. While paying respect to the player's foundational experience, we're developing products diligently to create a new captivating experience that combines the essential DNA of the original IPs with innovative game mechanisms. Further, we'll also be strategically promoting acquisition of major rights to leading Japanese IPs, particularly animation, which has been increasing its presence globally in recent years, and accelerate transmedia development on a global level, thereby enhancing the value of IPs and increasing earnings. As for Super Game, we're developing it based on market conditions, our own strengths, and portfolio perspectives as a challenge to build a long-term growth pillar for Sega in the future. So, right here is those like IPs from 2023 that they announced. So it's like Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage. It's all right here, listed out in like their exact names and logos. And NGS is not here whatsoever because it's like just this. Like legacy IPs means the things announced in December 2023. This is what they say explicitly. It's right there. But the super game is still not completely clear. There is one other part that they say, looking further ahead, we're also developing super game as a content/service that can be rolled out across a wide range of media, engaging a wide range of users globally. So they're still developing super game, and now they've changed it from like a multiple game project thing to more of a like a service or like a platform, kind of like how Roblox is what it sounds like. So there'll be this platform that holds games, and maybe they are the ones developing the games too on that platform. But it sounds completely different from a game, at least from what I see here. But there's just like so much unknown, and they keep saying like multiple things for the super game thing, and I don't even know why it's called super game. It makes no sense. And it's like, it's been called multiple games, it's called a platform, like it's not a single game, it makes no sense. Sega's terrible at naming, as we know from like previously with like Ultra Evolution with NGS, that update, version 2, that kind of stuff. But that's what I know so far from this. This is what Prince Brightstar is saying. At least that's why I think they're coming to that conclusion. So let's see what Karopi says to counter those points.
Spreading misinformation. However, if you dig in a little bit deeper and you actually look at the different divisions, how Sega is broken up in their gaming division, there is a total of 4 different gaming divisions. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The division which is in charge of the super games is the 3rd division. And in today's video, we will be going through this entire article. But before that, I still want to continue to...
So my question is, where is it said that it's the 3rd division? I don't know. Maybe I'll get to it.
To address a couple more comments. As you can see right here, they all talk about super game. It's not talking about the super game. As you can see right here, LOL thinking NGS is the super game. The copium is so real. There's a lot of comments over here saying that, hey, NGS is not a super game, and that's the main issue that a lot of people have. It's not the budget increase or not increase or whatever. It's just saying that NGS is not a super game. They're not getting that money. And with all of that out of the way, now it is time to jump into the meat and potatoes of this article so that you guys can understand why I say NGS is a super game. So for those who are interested, I will leave this link in the description below so that you can read it for yourself and see what all the other divisions do. But today we will be focusing on the 3rd development division because this is the one that is in charge of the super game. So as we can see, people who are in this division, the senior executive manager is Yuya Kimura. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Yuya Kimura is in charge of PSO2 New Genesis. A lot of people are like, oh my god, it doesn't write it in the article. I'll read it out for you right here. Joined in 2004, senior executive manager of the 3rd development division.
He is definitely heated, you can tell.
As a part-time planning assistant for Sonic team, gained experience in managing the operations of Sega's online R&D department for Phantasy Star Online 2, and now serves as the series producer of PSO2 New Genesis.
Okay, but him being a producer doesn't necessarily mean it's connected, because he's also the senior executive manager of this. Like, you can have multiple roles in a company, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's tied to the same game. You can work on also multiple games while within a company, so that doesn't prove anything. It does not prove anything so far.
Now, the vice executive manager is Kazuma Yoshida, joined in 2011, vice executive manager of the 3rd division, entered Sega's network management department as a mid-career hire, transferred to Sega Networks, currently serves as the producer of MJ Mobile. Then we have the manager, Shinya Matsunami, joined in 2024, manager of the 3rd development division, 3rd online R&D department number 1. Developed action games as part of Sonic team before moving over to PSO as a technical director, managing all the programming / engineering team and oversees all technical matters. Now, this is the part where everyone is just gonna have to accept, all right? That's the forefront of developing blockbuster super games. Sega's latest endeavor involves creating super games online based on AAA titles on a global scale. So, what is a super game? It requires 4 of these points in order to categorize as a super game. All right, the first one is a multi-platform release. NGS has that. It's available on Steam, on Epic Game Store, on the Microsoft Store, on the Xbox, on the PlayStation. It's available on multiple platforms. So a multi-platform release, check. Multilingual support for players online. It has a global server, it has a Japanese server, check. A simultaneous worldwide launch. NGS was a game that launched both in Japan and on global at the same time. On scale with par of other AAA titles. Yes, some people might argue here, NGS is not a AAA title. Well, in Sega's eyes, it is a AAA title, and so there you go, all right? NGS has hit all 4 of these points, and thus it does count as a super game. And if you still don't believe me for whatever reason, literally the senior executive manager for the super games is Yuya Kimura. All right, it's the person in charge of PSO2 New Genesis. So I'm gonna stop regurgitating this, and we're just going to read the article, and I'm going to try to stay as calm as possible and just be a little bit more objective. But moving on. With their wealth and experience developing and managing multi-platform titles, the third development division is currently spearheading the development of super games. Today, we are joined by Senior Executive Manager Yuya Kimura, Vice Executive Manager Kazuma Yoshida, and Manager Shinya Matsunami to discuss the distinct qualities of their division and the type of individual that would thrive in it. If you're interested in the gaming industry, please give this interview a read. Then we're gonna see right here the third development division mission to deliver a blockbuster game with simultaneous global launch. What kind of department is the third development division? The third development division produces games using a GaaS. Someone in the comment section of that video that I showed you guys was talking about this, and they're like, oh, it doesn't talk about that. But as we can see here, the third development division is actually in charge of this. GaaS actually stands for Games as a Service Model. So as you can see, this is a business model, right? Conceptually, this means that the game operates as a service. We generate revenue by updating the game on a daily basis as opposed to a number of units sold. So a live service game. Furthermore, we also provide games to multiple platforms. Our division is unique in that it offers a wide range of career experience as we work on console, PC, arcade games, as well as mobile. We also manage a number of our own titles globally, PSO2. Our division has a broader range of tasks compared to the others within Sega. Due to our work with other regions and platforms, we're one of the few workplaces in Japan that has an infrastructure to develop and run our own cross-platform online game. Lastly, one huge aspect of our division is our work on super games, which is a whole new frontier for us. Now, here comes the big question. Can you explain what super games are? Even though we had the answer above, here is the answer from Yoshida. Super games are AAA titles with a worldwide release date. We currently have a number of titles in development, games that are typically launched in Japan first. The successful titles will then be localized and released overseas. Super games, on the other hand, are developed with a global release in mind, which makes it easier to build communities around them. So games that were released in Japan first and then got a global release afterwards do not count as super games. I believe this is where the majority of the misunderstanding comes in. People are like, oh my gosh, PSO2 had a JP release and the global release was 10 years later. So a lot of people think that PSO2 is not a super game. And technically, you guys are correct there. However,
yeah, with NGS it's a bit weird, yeah. Because, like, NGS is an extension of PSO2, but it's kind of like its own game at the same time, so... Yeah, I would say, like, NGS is kind of like its own game. So they had it with global release in mind, they released at the same time.
Yes, is a super
And now, like, the updates are consistent on both sides. So, like, when Japan gets updates, we get updates. You know, there might be some extra things on Japan's side, like collab-wise or whatever. But that's, like, the only difference. We all have, like, the same stuff now.
So hopefully
or
now
before
you
we
guys
did
see
not.
why there's some confusion, because NGS literally has PSO2:NGS versus just regular PSO2. And this is where I think a lot of the misunderstandings coming in, because PSO2 or the base game is not considered a super game. However, NGS is considered a super game. All right? Is there really that much of a difference between launching the game globally from the outset comparing to localizing an already successful Japanese game? Yes, games that are released for the Japanese market tend to cater too much to Japanese audiences. In that respect, it's hard to produce a true global hit. In contrast, a game that is envisioned for a global audience from the get-go requires much more intricate development process. For instance, gacha, a common feature found in a lot of Japanese games, has been outlawed in many parts of the world. It's not just the laws either. We have to consider cultural norms, fads, ethics, and regional preferences as well. Creating a globally acclaimed game is significantly more challenging than designing one solely for the Japanese market. Having that said, having a conservative...
Funnily enough, it seems like him reading this paragraph kind of contradicts what he's saying then. Because, like, if this part is, like, what they're thinking about, like, oh, we can't have gacha because it's a feature that is outlawed in many parts of the world and we want it to be available to as many people as possible, I personally think NGS has like gacha in the form of its scratches. Like it's definitely a gacha system where you're spending money to get a random item out of a list. It's kind of just the same as like, you know, if you were to pull for a character or a weapon in some other game, it's like the exact same, it's just with cosmetics instead. It is a gacha. So this kind of goes against what he's saying, but I don't think it like completely discredits him. It's just like a one small thing.
Risk-averse approach won't result in a fun game. Sometimes we have to push the boundaries in order to create something new and innovative. These difficulties are one-of-a-kind challenge that only motivates us further. So hopefully this clarifies things a little bit better so that people understand what does Sega actually mean when they say a super game, alright? Here you go, black and white, everything is stated pretty clearly, and I hope now you guys understand. But we are not even halfway through the article yet, so again, we're going to continue. Continuing to challenge themselves as professionals in the third development division.
I mean, okay. I'm just like wondering if like the majority of this is going to be even...
Tell us about the team structure of the third development division. We have
bypass the gacha. I mean, I guess so, but that doesn't mean that there's no gacha in the game, though. And with like laws, I mean, they're all kind of different, but I mean, even just having it in there, I'm sure like with Overwatch, for instance, with its like loot box system, even though you could get the loot boxes for free, I'm sure there's still laws out there that like don't allow it to, you know, you can't play it in that country or something just because it has a mechanic like that. Because you could purchase them, but you could also get it for free. I don't know, it's all weird. Or like I guess like a better example would be like Apex. Yeah, I mean it is a bit different. I mean technically, you know, if there was nobody posting in the shop, then you would have to spend money. Or if there was like no supply in the shop, then like you'd have to spend money. I don't know, it's a whole weird thing. I don't know the details of each country's laws, but I'm sure there's like some country out there that just like doesn't allow it, period.
PSO2, small team, because they couldn't, that's why development for the game was so slow, that's why content was coming out very slow. 600 members now in the third development division. Keep in mind though, that out of the 600 members, not all 600 is working on...
Okay, so why is he saying 600 now? What was the number before? Does he know the number before? Did he say?
And we're going to continuing to challenge themselves as professionals in the third development division. Could you tell us about the team structure of the third development division? We have over 600 staff members. All right, guys, remember, I've been telling you guys, PSO2, small team, because they couldn't, that's why development for the game was so slow. That's why content was coming out very slow. 600 members now in the third development division.
Okay, I think he's confusing this here. This doesn't make any sense. Is he saying that like there's now 600 people working on NGS when there was like nobody, like just like a small team? This is not what it's saying at all. Like, does he not understand that like a whole division can work on multiple things? It's not like they're working on just NGS. Even though like the top management here has worked on like PSO stuff in the past, or is currently working on NGS, that doesn't necessarily mean all of this division is just NGS. Oh my god.
Keep in mind though, that out of the 600 members, not all 600 is working on NGS. There's a lot of these people who are making new games. You know, they're developing new...
I was gonna say, it would be crazy. It would be crazy to think all of that is like NGS. But there's nothing that's saying here that they just gained, you know, up to that number. There's nothing that has said that. Like, there's no, like, previous number to now this new number. So I don't know why he's, like, saying this increased from something when that has not been shown.
There's been a lot of talk about the new Crazy Taxi coming out in 2027. So
I mean, I'm sure there has been an increase. And, I mean, even so, does that mean it's going to NGS? Like, it doesn't say that either. Even if there has been an increase, it doesn't mean it's NGS.
A lot of those people are working on those games. But nevertheless, in this division, they have over 600 members. So this is a huge step up from what they had before, and hopefully, you know, they're able to allocate more people into NGS since they got the budget increase. Again, we're just going to continue on. Many of whom possess a broad spectrum of skills, our division has received a significant influx of staff from other departments in order to facilitate development for the super games, resulting in a particularly diverse workforce. If there
Okay. Okay, so there's the increase of staff, but it says for the super games. So he's going under the assumption that like NGS is a super game, like he's already proven that point based on like what has been said before. But once again, this could just mean to other super games. Like even if we assume that like NGS is a super game, this doesn't mean that it's like going to NGS. It's like maybe like a small fraction is, a huge fraction, all of it's going to NGS, or it could mean none of it. Like we're just assuming at this point. That's all this is.
Now moving on, as you take on new challenges, are there any changes you've noticed? When we started working from home, one of our third-year staff members suggested that we create a virtual office, which we've been testing with some of our team members. We don't disregard good ideas due to tenure or experience. We'd like to be an organization that isn't bound to stuffy conventions. Some of our GaaS titles have been in service for over a decade, but that doesn't mean that we're not constantly adding new features or trying new things with them. The reason our titles continue to endure is that we never stop seeking innovation. It is a sign that our workplace enables us to thrive and push boundaries. Welcoming curiosity-driven.
So right there's an important piece. Yeah, some of our games of the service titles have been in service for over a decade. So, like, would you consider, like, stuff from a decade ago, like, the super games? Because that doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, because, like, they announced the super game stuff in 2021. We already brought that up. And that is when they start using, like, the super game moniker. Was, like, almost the same time they launched NGS, they announced super games are going to happen, but they haven't happened yet. They're, like, more of, like, a 2025 thing. Or 2026 thing. There's probably going to be more information coming up in the next year about those games, but it's going to be until like early 2026 that it's going to like happen or start to happen. Yeah, I know what Karopi's trying to say is like Sega has defined NGS as a super game, but nothing really leads it to that. The only thing that like is evidence towards it so far that I've seen is that beginning portion of this article, where it talks about like, oh, super game is like released on a global scale, like with that in mind. You know, it's like multi-platform, blah blah blah, like those bullet points. So far, that's like the only thing that like I'm holding on to for Karopi's argument so far. Nothing else that has come up like really works as of yet. But I want to go through the entire thing first. I'll be checking this website too. Yes, I will.
Yet we're trying to put
Don't
out
worry.
games that will remain.
I just wanted to let him go through
5 to 10
his portion
years.
first. Okay. I really wish that he like broke this up into just the parts that matter. I really do.
Oh, how, especially at the third development division, there are plenty of chances for you to push yourself and take on new challenges.
Like he's literally just regurgitating the whole article. There's nothing to do with like NGS or super game here. Like there's nothing that's proving his points. He's just like reading it off. It has nothing to do with like the topic of the video. Okay, so the third development division offers a chance to work on mobile, arcade, and PC games. So we got to keep that in mind for when we talk about this afterwards. So they work on everything, all the things, not just PC.
We have numerous large-scale.
Just wanted to finish reading. Well, if there's nothing else that's important, it shouldn't be in here, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't matter. Okay, here we go.
Hundreds of staff.
Here's something that might matter. We have numerous large-scale projects that require hundreds of staff members, including our
super games. I can't think of any other company in Japan that would provide the same opportunity of working on games of such magnitude. Furthermore, one of Sega's strong points is its career opportunities. If you have the drive and the skills, it's a fantastic place to develop your abilities and build a successful career. Despite the large number of employees at Sega, there are still plenty of great positions available. As long as you're able to deliver results, you'll find yourself generously rewarded. We value ability and accomplishment over tenure, so you'll be evaluated based on what you bring to the table. I urge that you consider applying if you'd like to be part of a large-scale project.
Yeah, project, which in a lot of people's minds means future, right? Not things that are ongoing.
And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the full article over here on the third division.
Okay,
and,
so yeah, there's like only one part of this that
misunderstandings, and hopefully this clears things up for you guys so that you guys understand why I even made this video about the 30 million yen budget increase, because it's all going into the third development division team right here, which just so happens to include PSO2 NGS. Special.
Okay, I want to take a look at that website. I want to take a look at it just to see, just poke around. Okay, so this is the source, right? Is this it? Okay, so here's the article that he read from. So I think the main thing that mattered was this part. This right here. At the forefront of developing blockbuster super games, Sega's latest endeavor involves creating super games, online-based AAA titles on a global scale. And like these 4 bullet points that they have in mind for when making these. So multi-platform release, the multilingual support, a simultaneous worldwide launch, and on par with other AAA titles. So NGS pretty much hits all those bullet points, I think, because it has the multi-platform. At least, yeah, it had Xbox and PC, but then PlayStation was later. But it's still considered multi-platform because it's more than one. Multilingual support, yes. Simultaneous worldwide launch, yes. This is just subjective depending on who you ask, but I think some people would consider yes for this bullet point that NGS covers it, at least with like aspects of the game. But now, yes, I was gonna check all the divisions to see what it says. Okay, so I don't think there's anything with other divisions that have anything to do with like super game. So Croppy is correct in the fact that the third division is the one that focuses on doing super games. That we know. That is for sure. And Yuya Kimura, which is the producer of NGS, and a couple of others that have worked on PSO are like some of the lead managers of this division. Cooper's saying 30 billion yen is going to NGS. His first video about this was insane reach. No, yeah, I 100% do not think all of that money is going. Like, we're talking about the 30 billion yen up here, right? Yeah, if he believes all of this is going to NGS, he is absolutely insane. But I mean, it kind of sounded like that in the first video he did. But as he was talking through this newer one, there's a part where he was saying, like the staff increase was, like, for multiple games. Like, he wasn't that insane. So surely he doesn't believe that, like, this is just NGS. I don't think. Because in this portion here, he talked about it being staff going to multiple things. It even says here, for multiple super games. So I don't think he, at least no longer believes that all of that budget is for this, or it's not making himself clear enough. but if he is saying like all of this is going to NGS, then he's completely wrong, like dead in the water wrong, like 100%. But if he's saying that like part of it is going to NGS, and NGS is a super game, then that's a different matter. that's a different thing. I don't know. It's hard to say, at least right now. Because they talk about super games in such a weird way. They talk about it in such a weird way. Because when you look at this Legacy IP/super game, they don't talk about super games. They say super game in this article, and then super games is something different. Like, it doesn't really make much sense. Like, Sega is so unclear about this kind of thing. It's ridiculous. But where I'm standing at this right now is I believe NGS is not a super game. It's more of a, what do you call it? like the alpha phase or beta phase of super games, if you understand what I'm saying. So like a precursor to the super games where they were just doing a whole bunch of testing for what's actually going to release later. Like, I think they wanted to just do a whole bunch of weird, wacky stuff with NGS, just see what worked, what didn't, and also, you know, turn up some extra revenue for this extra development that they're doing and all this extra hiring. And that's why we haven't gotten too much in NGS, because they could have pumped so much into NGS by this point. It's been 3.5 years. They could have done so much more. Like, we know that. But I think they were just saving money for the actual super games. That's how I feel on it. So when they're talking about legacy IP super games, we know for a fact, we just saw at the beginning, that legacy IPs are these. It's clearly stated here. Breathe new life into the legacy IPs still loved by fans in December 2023. So this has nothing to do with NGS whatsoever. It is stated explicitly right there. So it has nothing to do with the legacy IPs. That we know 100%. And then right here it says, as for Super Game, we are developing it based on market conditions, our own strengths, and portfolio perspectives as a challenge to build a long-term growth pillar for Sega in the future. In the future! So based off that fucking sentence that is said explicitly, I don't think it's NGS. I don't think NGS is Super Game just based on that. Because it is explicitly stated in here that it's not. And games that are games as a service that are global are considered separate from this, which is like NGS or Persona 5, Phantom X, or Sonic Rumble, like these two right here. So him saying that because NGS ticks all these boxes, makes it a super game, I think is not good enough. Because you could say, like, this Persona 5 thing would tick all those boxes, but they don't call it a super game. They don't call it a super game. So this alone right here is like too vague. And it's not like all of what they're doing for these things. Persona 5 live service. This is apparently the Phantom X. Latest in the Persona 5 series. Yeah, it says through licensing out to Perfect Worlds, offering simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, and Korean versions with multi-platform compatibility for crossplay on smartphones and PCs. Planned for release in Japan as well. So it's like mobile and not. It's on mobile and PC. So that's multi-platform, multilingual. It's an online game. Still subjective about the AAA thing, but that follows like all the points, right? And that's not a super game. You know what I'm saying? And then also right here, further expansion of the major pillars. Transmedia strategy and global games as a service. Right there, global games as a service, which is separate from Super Game. Separate. It is completely separate. So, things that already exist, I don't think are Super Games. Pretty much everything points to Super Game not being released based on previous interviews, articles, this itself, and this here even like implies future. They're currently developing, they are not released. Like you could say like because NGS is ongoing, they're still developing it, but people don't really use it in that context. They don't use the word developing in that way. I think this just falls apart. Based on like all the evidence that I showed you guys, and I guess like even Cisco's thing here, where it says they're hiring for Super Game as like something separate from NGS. I think there's just too many things that point to otherwise. So I don't believe NGS is a super game. I think there's like plenty of evidence that shows that it's not. But that doesn't mean that NGS is not getting any budget increase or more people working on it. Like it could. There's nothing that said that it does. I don't think they really will. I think NGS will just kind of coast, to be honest, and then it'll eventually fade off as these super games come out. But I mean, they could if you want to cope like that hard. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think like NGS is just a precursor to the super games. It's just a thing to generate revenue based off the old IP and nostalgia. So, you know, people will dump into the scratch tickets to then give them money to make the other games that they actually care about. Yeah, PSO3 maybe. They could do that. You know, that could be a super game, but it could also be something else. It could be other stuff. Because yeah, it's multiple games. It's whatever. Like this article itself, it said that it's a content service thing with a wide range of media, and it's like also targeted at streamers. I don't even think Sega knows what it is. I don't even think they know what the fuck it is. You know what I'm saying? They're just shooting things at the board and just like whatever gets the most hype. Okay, we're doing that. Yeah, well, we're doing that thing. But yeah, it's like a lot of as they call it, research and development. So it's like they're just trying a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes, seeing what's actually going to happen out of this. And this is just the project name, is Super Game. I don't know why they stuck with that name, but that's what it is. Now we've seen that like games and service is called. There's other games that follow that and follow those bullet points that are already released that are not called super games. And super game multiple times has been a in the future thing. Okay, what does it say here? Vision challenge to create a super game. So I think this also just says like they haven't done it yet. Like that's the vision, future. That's the goal, is to create it, and they have not created it yet. If there's something else other than this article that says more explicit or gets even like further in detail, like something that says that there's already a super game, like NGS is one of them, or something. I just can't believe it. There's just no way. I think we got through most of this. I mean, what do you guys think? Like, are you guys on Kuropi's sides? Are you kind of just like in the middle? Like, you can believe it either way, or there's just like no way in hell that the NGS is a super game. Absolute Kuropium. God damn it. Before we end this video, I do want to say for Kuropi to give him a bone. I think he was too hooked on the super game like name or idea thing, where he was just really adamant about NGS being a super game. But I do think he's correct in that NGS is getting budget. Not as much budget as he's probably thinking, like the 30 billion, but if you look at the second part here, it says to strengthen core IPs at Japan Studios, and that is getting 90 billion in budget. So I think that portion, some of that, is going to NGS. And it's not included in this 30 billion thing with the legacy IPs and this super game project. And even when you look at the Sega Division 3 jobs, there is NGS listings in here. So there's one for a lead planner, and then also for a client programmer. But as you can see with the rest of the listings, a lot of it is for that super game project and other legacy IPs coming up at later dates. So I think I'm just going to get some, but it isn't going to be like such a crazy amount as he's saying. So you're not going to see something like massive come out of NGS from like this insane out of nowhere budget increase. It might get like a few more people on the team, but it's going to go anywhere from like, a couple dozen to like hundreds, something like that. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.